Yeah.
But man, when we start having conversations about how to deal with racism, that's the quickest way to get kicked the fuck out. Because I want to hear it.
Yeah.
It's considered not an issue. Like, so this on an interconnectedness level, this reminds me
Yeah.
of a story from growing up. Listeners, for the listeners we've had, like I've told you, I went to a Christian quote unquote reform school. Basically, it operated as a cult. They said ridiculous shit all the time, and honestly, now it seems like they're legitimately making all the laws in the country because fuck, all the shit that's coming down the pike sounds a lot like the shit that happened in my hometown. But I digress. Um,
There's your catchphrase.
um, so
Sorry.
this week one of the rulings that were handed down by the Supreme Court was a rolling back on the EPA's ability to regulate the output of harmful gases by um, um, companies. Specific,
What
yeah,
the fuck?
specifically coal companies. But it pretty much it
Jesus fuck.
pretty much hamstrung the EPA. Like now, uh, specifically coal companies can pump out as much poisonous gas in the atmosphere as they want.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Love it.
great.
Love to see it.
So, but let's talk about connectedness. So when I was in school, one of the things I was told is that we as humans should not worry about climate change. When asked why,
Can't wait to hear the rationale here.
we were told that we don't have to worry about climate change because humans could not destroy the planet. And if humans got to a point that we were about to basically destroy the environment, God would destroy us first. The apocalypse would happen before humans could ruin the environment. Therefore, we shouldn't worry about pollution. We shouldn't worry about any of that.
What the actual fucking fuck?
But that,
How old were you when you were taught this?
high school, so 14, 15,
Jesus
16,
Christ.
17.
I mean, I guess that's better than telling it to small children. I would be up at night with nightmares if I had been told that as a
Oh
little
no,
kid.
they would they that was that they would tell that to little children, and they
Jesus.
would make us watch the Left Behind movies, read those books and everything. Like, and this is goes into this go. This the point is of going into the interconnectedness. These are the same people who are making these laws and making these decisions, and, and justify these decisions using those beliefs, their religion. It's hard to like when people don't care that people are getting hurt or that people are going to have to suffer because they truly believe the end of the world is coming and that they're going to go to heaven while everyone else is going to burn in hell. They don't care about what happens to you.
Yeah.
They don't care what happens to the earth. They don't care because in their minds, it already it's not a worry because earth is going to be destroyed beforehand, and the right people are going to get heavenly reward, and everyone else is going to burn in hell. But that doesn't even come from religion because in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, there was a push from the conservative movement to become more involved with Southern Christian churches. Because I don't know if people realize Republicans the Republican Party actually used to try to shy away from being involved with churches. Truly were. It truly, like,
Hmm.
60s, 70s, 80s, the Goldwater Rebellion, they needed to shore up power. The Conservative Party needed to shore up power. So they allied themselves with large southern churches, especially. And those southern churches basically would then operate to integrate political platforms into their churches.
Hmm.
So their political platforms became religion. It wasn't even that religion became political platforms. No, 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 no. Political platforms became religion. So if your political platforms is like, oh, we don't want environmentalism, these churches would go and preach that. They would play off each other. Religious people would get more political power, and the politicians would get more followers. Of course, that's
Hmm.
how you create demagogues. Of course,
Yep.
because when you ingratiate politics into your religion, and then the politicians start saying all the things as a political platform, and you go, "Oh, well, God wanted me to believe this political platform because it's a part of my religion." You're going to believe anything that person says because they've literally been sent by God. George Bush said he had a mandate from God to lead the country. He said that. Very
Hmm.
specific. He tied his entire political existence at the time into mandate from God. And you wonder how Trump has gotten so many such ardent and virulent followers because they've spent the last 20 years, 20, 30, 40 years being told that this political platform is part of your religion.
Hmm.
And your books are infallible. They cannot be wrong.
Right.
Therefore, this person cannot be wrong. And if someone tells you they're wrong, that person is obviously the problem.
And even if you yourself listen to what that person is saying and question it, well, who are you to question God's will? You're ignorant. There must be some piece of it that you don't understand. God moves in
Right.
mysterious ways, blah, 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 blah.
Uh,
Right? Because you have been trained since childhood to not question
yep.
things. If you question something, you are being sinful and you are wrong, and therefore you should just have faith.
Like literally, part of my schooling was that they gave a lesson that slaves during the civil antebellum period and Civil War period who ran away were inherently sinful because the Bible says to be obedient and be good slaves to your masters. That was part of my schooling.
That's
But
fucked
it
up.
always goes back to stay in your place.
Oh, did you hear about the thing with the Texas State Board of Education this week?
Yep, the what was the word for it? It's not slavery anymore. It is,
It was involuntary
yes,
relocation.
involuntary relocated.
Thankfully, that was struck down. Yeah, Texas wanted to replace the term slavery in its state curriculum with involuntary relocation, as if the place that these people were was the only aspect worth considering.
Of course, it wasn't the know eternal servitude.
Right. Not just of you, but of your children and your children's children. Right. gen generational problem. And it had nothing to do with the economic situation in the United States at the time, and it didn't have anything to do with any of it. The only thing worth talking about was that they were in one place and then some people brought them to another place against their will.
It, again,
Anyway,
because it would be awful if, you know, people were to find out that, you know, that is bad. You might want to do something about it. Can't do that. You got to keep them in their place.
right.
But yeah, it's like, again, you can't separate it, and it, like I said, and it doesn't have, like, these issues don't just exist. They don't just exist separately. They all, like, stem from, I mean, it's power.
Yeah.
It's creating and maintaining power. The only reason white people are white today is because of maintaining power. The only reason Christians,
Yep.
American Christians especially, are Christians the way they are today is consolidation of power.
Yep.
The definitions of gender and sexuality, the way they exist in American society, exist due to power structures.
Right.
I
It's hilarious how many people are bemoaning transgender identity, especially but not exclusively non-binary identity, as this new thing that's destabilizing the identities of men and women, blah blah blah, whatever. Completely not even realizing, number one, that non-binary type gender identities have existed and do exist in indigenous cultures all over the world. It is not new at all. But also, everybody says, oh, being transgender is a new thing, blah, 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 blah. Otherwise, we would have known about it when the most famous, the most photographed um, instance of book burning by the Nazis was, I forget what the name of the library was, but it was literally a library of transgender, like, academic works, right? Like works about transgender identity and um, information about medical transition. It was the largest library of transgender knowledge that has basically ever existed. And it was completely destroyed by the Nazis, setting the knowledge about transgender identity back dozens of
which
years.
is interesting because, especially to me, because that was in the 1930s and 40s, right?
Yep. Yeah, that was late 30s, I think.
According to many conservative politicians that I've heard before, who are in their 60s and 70s and 80s,
Hmm.
according to them, homosexuality and non-cis identities didn't exist before the 60s.
Yeah.
That is
Hmm.
that they stem from a degradation of the United States into a sinful, lawless place. But there you go.
Well, because it had to be like I was never taught until I didn't know that that was what books were being burned until I was in my late 20s, I think. I was never taught that because you have to gloss over that because if you as a homophobic, transphobic, white Christian politician were to acknowledge that you are on the same side as the Nazis about something publicly, that causes an internal cognitive dissonance that you can't have. So it wasn't they just painted the Nazis as horrible because look, they're destroying knowledge. They didn't dig too deeply into what knowledge the Nazis
What
were trying to
very
destroy.
specific knowledge, exactly. So